Hello, my friends. Welcome back to some more Space Marine 2. We had to take a couple days break because we were too busy working. I spent a couple hours playing the multiplayer. You only get access to the multiplayer after you beat the prologue level. The level with the Tyranids. But I didn't know that, so I wasn't sure there even was multiplayer yet. Spent some time with the Space Marines and the Chaos Gits. Sadly, there isn't any Orc yet. I'm not certain they're going to put Orcs as a playable race, but I would really like that. So if the devs are listening at all, I would really like to play as an Orc. Get some Eternal Crusade back in our lives, you know? Get the Orc boys back in line. Their argument is that a Team A, Team B lobby is going to load the population faster than a Team A, Team B, Team C type deal. I can understand that logic. It is easier on a game engine to do a Team Red, Team Blue than it is to do a Team Red, Team Blue, Team Green. Green being the operative word here. It was one of the problems with Eternal Crusade. You could have lots of population on Orcs, you could have lots of population on Chaos, but if you only had a little population on Space Marines, then the Space Marines didn't get to play. Now, I know that's an Eternal Crusade type problem, but I would still really very much like to see a couple of changes made to this game's multiplayer. Number one, I would really like to see vehicles. Number two, I would really like to see the magical casters back. In Eternal Crusade, for example, they had apothecaries, and Chaos had the Chaos Sorcerer. Seems they've taken those types of things away. So you can't be a Chaos Sorcerer, and you can't be an apothecary. And I feel like that this bar up here, if you were to put the Q right there, and you were to put the E right there, you could fit a few more classes. Librarian, apothecary, tech priest. You could put a whole bunch, right? But they don't seem to be interested in doing that, so I'm not sure it's going to happen. I have been enjoying the multiplayer. The multiplayer is fun. It's a little bit grindy, because without your veterancy level being high enough, you don't get access to all the weapons. For example, in Eternal Crusade, this was my go-to. I lived on this. This was how I lived. This was like my bread and butter in Eternal Crusade. But here in Space Marine 2, I don't have access to it because I'm not rank 23. I wanted to see how long it would take to grind to rank 23. And so in the space of a day, I got to about level 8. The sniper class is definitely one of the higher DPS classes, for sure. It is absolutely one of the higher firepower classes. They even get a las rifle, which is kind of nice. You can even edit your armor and mess around with your loadouts, which is also very similar to Eternal Crusade. One key difference, though, is that Chaos doesn't seem to have the option to do a custom armor set. So here, for example, I can click my armor set, and I can choose my pauldrons, choose my chest plate, choose my backpack. when you're a jumper. When you're an assault marine, you can change your backpack. You can change your halo even. It's very cool. This is very much like Eternal Crusade. The item gear, items selections are similar to Eternal Crusade. A little bit of a difference is that each limb has its own item. Whereas in Eternal Crusade, your arms and your legs counted as just two. What's even funnier is that you can actually set rules. So you can actually change your legs individually. Which is pretty neat, honestly. So the custom armor set, you know, you can actually do quite a bit. But when you go to the heretics, option, don't actually have a whole lot of choice. For example, I can't change his pauldron, and I can't change the legs, because I've never liked the stubby legs, the stubby sphered legs. I never have. Even the colors seem to be less vivid. Like when you look at the difference between this and this, there's almost no difference. At least here for the trim, you can see it. The army painting is pretty cool. I am a big fan of that. But I'm not a fan of this shoulder pad. So if it were up to me, like, I like this backpack, and I like this helmet, but I don't, and I like this chest plate, and I even like the arms, but I don't like this shoulder pad, and I don't like these legs. Yet you can't seem to change it. Another strange glitch you're going to notice is that this slider bar doesn't work. So even as you try to grab the slider bar, you can use the wheel, but you can't use the slider bar. As you can see, you can't really change it. So it doesn't seem like any of your changes that you make, you can color them. You can color the pieces individually. But you can't actually change the shoulder pad. And proof of that is that everybody has the same shoulder pad. So that's a little bit sad. So the Space Marines get a lot more. Yeah. They get a lot more options. The Space Marines are more complete. I guess because they were focusing on the single player experience, they didn't quite finish all the multiplayer stuff. And as a consequence of that, Avalrak was mentioning this in one of his videos, that he was all for, he said something along the lines of being all for full customization for the Chaos counterparts. And I'm somewhat in favor of that as well, because that's what I just now went to go and actually do, and couldn't, because they're not finished. So until they're more finished, until the multiplayer is a little bit more out of the oven, so to speak, I'm going to have to come back to it, because without being able to play with this, I feel... Oh, that's so cool. Oh, look at that. You can even have your... Oh, look. Ah, see? But look at that. So when you change... So here's a really good example of what I mean when I say that it's not complete. No, I can't use this weapon. I'm only rank 8. I need 23 to be able to use it, okay? But look at all these cool options. So you have like 10 options. You have this one. Can't quite see it all because my mouse being over it covers it all up, which is kind of lame, but yeah, so then there you go. You can kind of sort of see it, right? How cool that is. Then you got this one. Wow, those are both actually really cool. The ribbon placements are a little different. No stats differences, though. That one doesn't look so bad. Those top 3 all look sick. I honestly like this one the most, I think. This one has more blacks in it, but this one has, like, more symmetrical ribbons. Whereas this one's less symmetrical in its ribbons. You've even got the, on the bottom down there, you have the little, fucking incense orb. God, that's funny. How do we make a blue lava squirt gun any cooler? Oh, let's put an incense orb that dangles down from underneath. I mean, it's just fucking brilliant. The artistry is just spot on. So anyway, so you got 10 options, right? 10 options for your heavy plasma incinerator. We're just going to call it plasma cannon. Every normal player is going to call it plasma cannon. I'm sorry. That's what I'm going to call it. It's not a heavy plasma incinerator. It's a plasma cannon. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just being honest. So this is a plasma cannon, okay? Now when you click the Heretics Astartes, which really should just be chaos. I would replace that whole word with just chaos. I would leave this as Adeptus Astartes, but I would change this to just chaos if it were up to me. And as you can see, for chaos, they only have one option. This is more proof. Yeah, again, look, the multi-melta, it has 10 options for Space Marines. For Chaos, it only has 1. It's even worse for the normal heavy bolter. It's got 11 options. But for Chaos, it only has one. In fact, it almost seems as though it's like that for every gun. Yeah. So literally every version. I mean, even the fist, even the power fist, has its standard issue, master crafted issue. But the Chaos version is just, well, that's actually interesting. I think it's based off of model-wise. It's based off the last one. When you look at this, and then you look at this, it has extra bits that the basic one doesn't have, but that this one does. So that's interesting. And again, for whatever reason, it's pretty sick. Looks pretty cool. I would change this helmet, though. If I could. Yeah. It's kind of cool that you can buy the looks. You spend your requisition points on things that look good. Because you don't have to, they don't actually change your, like, your stats or anything. At least not yet. So on one hand, the customization, the Space Marine customization, it's very cool. I spent a lot of time in this mode for Orc, for example, in Eternal Crusade, because it's really fun making your Orc look as cool as you want. So you get all your best parts and all your best bits, you know? And then you style out your character to make it look the way you want. And for here, in the Space Marine section, I'm very pleased with the way they're doing it. Like, for example, you go to helmets, and you can, like, pick different heads. This is the head that I want, personally. Because it has green eyes. And I've always liked green eyes as opposed to red. For those of you that played, a little skull, whatever. For those of you that played any of the Dawn of War games, you always played as the Blood Ravens. Not to be confused with the Blood Angels. But right here was also really cool is that you can get different shoulder pads. You can get whatever shoulder pad you want. My textures aren't rendering for some reason, but in theory, yes, you can get this really sick shoulder pad that looks really awesome. You might prefer any one of these. Yeah, this is really cool. That way any one Space Marine from any one person is ever going to look the same. In the multiplayer, anyway. See, that's the shoulder arm that I want, because I think it will match the shoulder, the arm. What's even cooler is that they even added a robot arm. It's so awesome. The right arm isn't as cool. They don't have as cool options. Whereas the left arm has this really sick Death Watch option. Which is awesome. I suppose the chains look better than nothing, but I would still prefer another silver arm. Personally. Now I'm curious. I wonder if I could. Similar to the Chaos where you had rules. I wonder if there's gonna be anything like that for them. I noticed that there's more squares, so I think they're gonna make more options. Yeah, that's the coolest. That one's also pretty good. All the other three are kind of boring, but these two are pretty good. And again, same thing that happened to the right arm. The right leg is kind of boring. Hopefully there's more options. Oh, that looks kind of cool with all the grenades there. Those all look pretty good. Even the one that even the blank one looks fairly interesting. Kind of like this one the most. For sure. And again, the same thing that happened to the right arm and the right leg. And this is just totally bizarre. I don't understand. It seems like all the, at least in my opinion anyway, all the coolest stuff goes on the left, because here on the right shoulder, we have the exact same problem that we had. Okay, those two are actually kind of cool. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I take that back. So these two are pretty good. See how little difference that is, and yet it's so much difference? For those of you who don't know, what they did was they used normals on the textures to brighten up the rims. You notice how all the rivets have almost a white spot on them? And when you move the character around, that white spot changes in strength. For example, the white spots that are down here are weaker than the ones that are over here. And that's because they're using normals. For those of you who don't know what normals are, or don't care because you're here to watch me play Space Marine. You're not here to listen to me talk about 3D models. For those of you who make 3D models, normals are used to tell which direction light is supposed to be coming from. See, back before the game engines did all this work for you, we weed smokers had to actually manually set these ourselves. This is why sometimes when you play video games and the lighting on some patches of a model look weird or broken, it's because they probably haven't set their normals up properly. StarCraft 2 uses a different type of normal. It uses a normal map, and a normal map is different because it's a texture. See, in the old days, the difference was, in the old days, a texture rendered onto a piece of mesh used properties of the mesh to alter the texture. So if the normals on the mesh were done wrong, then the texture would look wrong, and there was no way to fix that by changing the texture. You just simply can't, because the problem isn't in the texture. And in some games, you can't change the models, because in order to change the models, you have to actually change the directory in the file, and that constitutes hacking. So if you were to go, for example, into Warcraft 3 and say, hey, I want to change all the models in Warcraft 3 in my MPQ, but I'm not going to change anything else. I'm not going to get map acts, I'm not going to do this, not going to do that, I'm not going to get the instant free win hack, I'm not going to get the hack that makes it so that your ladder loses don't increase, so that your ladder wins always increase, manipulating the ladder. No, you just change the models. Just changing the models will prevent. The reason it constitutes hacking is because if your MPQ, if your game directory files don't match everybody else's game directory files, some video games will simply crash your computer doing that. And that can happen from a file mismatch. So that's why game companies don't encourage people to make changes to the models. But when they make their models, they want to do it once and they want to do it right, and they don't want to have to come back to the models later and fix them later, like StarCraft 2 did. For those of you who don't know what StarCraft 2 is, it doesn't really matter. It's my primary game. It's the game that I play the most. And in StarCraft 2, there was a time when some of the worker units, some of the very basic, smallest, small-tier units, had model glitches. And every time they did an expansion, when they came out with Heart of the Swarm, when they came out with Legacy of the Void, when they came out with Nova Covert Operations, when they came out with all of the co-op commanders, they updated the models, and we know that because they changed the models' names. They get different names at the end. This here is an example of normal maps that are being used beautifully because the center of the coin is brighter than the other circle around it. You see that? But notice how it's like a crescent moon, so the light is on the top, but it's not on the bottom. These are very well-made textures. I can tell they're well-made. Sometimes when you look at a texture, you can just sort of tell that the texture is bad, that it's not made well. And it can really throw off. It doesn't matter how much work you put into a project three-dimensionally. The moment that you screw up the textures, there's no way to fix it with three-dimensional. So what I'm trying to say here is that this one shoulder pad, it's kind of boring. All it is like a strip with rivets. And that by itself is not very interesting. But what, to me personally, as a three-dimensional model editor, is interesting, is how good these rivets look. It actually makes me jealous, because I'm not very good at making rivets. I have actually done it. I have made rivets in three-dimensional editing. And I gotta tell you, it's kind of shitty. It's one of the less comfortable things texture-wise. So yes, this shoulder plate is boring. Yes, it's basically the same as the other two. It's slightly better than the first two. Slightly worse than the fourth one. But to me, when I look at those rivets, and I fucking just wow. Like, it's very satisfying. Yeah, those rivets look really good. Wow. That is actually probably one of my favorites. It's blank, yes, but this one, the skulls look kind of weird to me. Kind of, I don't know. Maybe that's because my textures are not rendering properly. But those rivets, man, those rivets look so good. See, now this is an example of the exact opposite. I don't like the fact that the eagle is red. It should be white, or even better if it was like this. If they had this metallic gold silver color that's on this skull, on this eagle. Double-headed imperial eagle. Because somehow this color red just doesn't look right. I would take these shoulder pads over this shoulder pad any day. We've played enough multiplayer for the day. I didn't record it because I wasn't sure how gruesomely inappropriate the players were going to be. So the multiplayer is more just for me. Because I don't want to have to fight the whole entire internet worth of Warhammer fans to try and censor the crappy, shitty things they say. For those of you who don't know, the Warhammer community is notoriously infamous for being both salty and cringy and vicious. So we're not going to debut the multiplayer scene. I will yell at the multiplayers who say stupid things on my own time. I'm not going to make you be subjected to that. Today, we're going to embrace shame. I could not beat that Lictor. I spent another 2 hours, no talking. No talking, just hardcore Elden Ring class rolling. I rolled, and I rolled. I did so many rolls. You wouldn't even believe me. And I have to embrace my shame. We could not beat the Lictor on Angel of Death. It's simply, I don't know. It's just simply not doable. It's like, it's difficult to explain. It's difficult to explain. So, we're just gonna go. We're gonna crank the difficulty down by 1. We're gonna try him again. And if we can beat him on this lower difficulty, then we'll just crank it back up for the rest of the levels and the campaign. And I'll have to treat him like a final boss. Bring my friends or something. Fight him for real. Reach the Adeptus Mechanicus facility.
Something is off. Watch your backs.
Watch your backs, brothers.
This is it. Weapons ready. Come and taste death, vermin. They will not get past this.
Alright. We'll give this another try.
Resupply.
We've seen this already.
Need to reload.
Whoa.
Munitions secured. Watch your backs.
Holy crap.
Stabilizing my
Ooh.
Come on, let me up. That mistake almost cost you dearly. On the track. The Emperor protects.
Holy crap. Oh, that was a Lictor. Whoops. Ah, man. I was so close. Oh, so close. Time to drink some beer. Ah, such a good try. One of my closest yet. But of course it's no longer on the hardest difficulty, so it doesn't really mean anything.
Weapons ready. Come and taste death, vermin. Deploying fragment. Restocking. Loading up. Munitions secured. Restocking. Watch your flank.
Wow. He's so good. Fuck. Holy shit. Where's another one? Did I use it already? Oh shit. Ouch. Holy crap.
Time for vengeance.
Holy crap.
Major Arcana, you were correct. There was a Lictor out here.
I suspect you have already dealt with it.
Indeed. There will not trouble you again.
Very good, my lord.
That's not the end of the level? What? That's the beginning of it? Wow.
The Lictor is a capable foe. A welcome challenge. Were the Lieutenant not with us, I fear we would have joined Cordanus and Septimus. Perhaps they faced more than one. No. Lictors hunt alone.
Yeah, we'll try this, okay? Why not?
The facility is in ruin.
Let us hope noziks research remains intact.
Archmagos, we have arrived.
Move to the lower levels. If lifts are functioning, route
If.
Ah. That guy's still shooting at me? With barbed stranglers? That's what those are. Those are barbed stranglers. Absolutely. They have to be. That's the spell effect even from Dawn of War 2. Ah. Yep. Devourers. Or warriors with barbed stranglers.
Toxins assail my senses. They never learn. Archmagos, the entrance is inoperative.
Stand by.
Enemy presence. Our lords. Allow biomass to feed their armies.
Disgusting. Make me clean through ceramite.
Given half a chance.
That's right, those rippers. In Dawn of War 2, they're like the bottom tier, weakest unit, but in Dawn of War 1, they're the workers.
Lots of rippers. I hear them all around. Holy Sesgun. Many have forgotten their sons. How many rounds do you have? This is only enough if the Emperor politics.
Yeah, they didn't do well.
Rally at the elevator.
I forgot we have to push the buttons.
Verify your signature is detected if 119. Disappointingly slow progress for Anastasis.
Spare me the insults, Magos.
Statement error. Insults. I engage in pure analysis. Locate primary transmitter. Coordinates inbound.
I have had more pleasant conversations with orcs.
I don't know about that. Orcs don't really have conversations either. Actually, I guess they kind of do. Orcs didn't say very much in Dawn of War 2. They said even less in Dawn of War 2 compared to Dawn of War 1. That was somewhere where Dawn of War 3 was actually fairly well versed. Was in the admittedly boring campaign. The orc levels are fun. Playing as the orcs in Dawn of War 3 was pretty fun. Orcs and Tyranids. Orcs and Tyranids and Necrons are the coolest, I think.
Fight in the thick of his xenos as long as you need.
I will hold you to that.
So,
Go inside his armor. He deserved better. This Pyreblaster will serve us well against Rippers. Gadriel to resilient.
they don't even have this gun in multiplayer.
Received. Location marked for apothecary. Our brother's sacrifice will be remembered.
Ah, it's that metal plate. That's interesting. You'd think in Warhammer fashion it would just slam on that metal plate. Whoa.
Rippers, here they come. Raise weapons only. Keep them back with the Pyreblaster while we thin their numbers.
Holy crap, they're just coming underneath these grates. They can come from anywhere.
Restocking. Munitions secured.
See, now it would be cool if I could pick that up. Ah, it did set everything low. Interesting.
Recovering.
Oops, I didn't want to do that. Ah, crap.
There must be thousands. That door looks like our exit. Clear a path through those vermin.
Okay. So now that I've beat the Lictor, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch this. Alright? Hear me out. Now hear me out. I only had time to roll one joint. One weed stick, as some people would say. One weed stick. So now I'm going to roll another one. And while I roll another one, I'm going to rant. I'm going to rant about a few things, okay? A few things. We're going to talk about the Lictor and what's wrong with it. I found some moments where the Lictor gives you the warning that it's going to do its super awesome one-hit attack. It gives you the proper warning. It identifies the warning as red, so it's unblockable. And I still find myself getting took out by it, even though I roll out of the way. There was one moment in my very glitchy video that I'm not going to upload because it's very glitchy looking. There's one moment where the Lictor catches one of my AI and begins doing the ground and pound animation on the AI. But on my screen, I'm on my back and I'm fighting basically air. It was very odd. It looked as though it was the moment where the Lictor was jumping upon me, doing the finisher, doing the Dawn of War 2 finisher animation. And for some reason he was doing it to my AI. So my AI guy was knocked down onto the ground. And I was on my back defending. And I wasn't taking any damage. I was doing all the defensive stuff. The spamming of A and D. I even did the C key to do the block at the very end. And I took no damage. My AI took a lot of damage. But he only took about half his health and damage. I don't know if that's something they implemented later, where I guess if you're playing with people, then in theory anybody can get ground and pounded. Ground and pound animation. That's my name for it. I don't know what you would actually call it. I don't know what the scientific name for whatever the hell's happening in that moment is what you would call it. But in that moment, it actually saved me because my AI took all the hits. Took a lot of damage. And it gave me the chance to get back up. But I only ever got it to trigger one time. It was one of my closest attempts at getting the Lictor on the hardest difficulty. It was when the AI tanked for me. There's a couple of moments where it rings it out as a blue attack, but then it plays 3 attacks without any warning of any kind, and you can't block them, even though it doesn't say they're red or blue. Sometimes the Lictor will jump up into the trees and never come back down again, and that happened after I put a crack grenade on its face. I put a crack grenade on its face, 2 actually. It was even worse. It started to run away, and the first crack grenade exploded, and it played some kind of animation where it got stunned. But then it went to do its jump, and it went to jump up into the trees. And that's when the second crack grenade went off. And the second crack grenade went off when it was about halfway up from being on the ground to being in the tree. And in the tree, it played its animation where it looked like it was trying to do a ground and pound. It was basically ground and pounding the tree, and it was invulnerable. I couldn't do any damage to it. I'd really hoped that I'd glitched it out and thought, oh, I could just put 2 crack grenades on it and then speedrun this shit by killing the max difficulty Lictor by just putting 2 crack grenades on its face and then bugging it out in the tree and then shooting it, but it wouldn't come back down. And so basically, I couldn't really do anything, so I had to just reload. And the third thing that I noticed that was kind of weird was there was a moment where the Devourers come up from under the ground and they got stuck because at the same time the Lictor was jumping down onto the ground, and the two combined, the Devourer up unburrowing and the Lictor jumping down directly onto each other, basically, caused the two of them to basically become statues. And it was on that attempt that I almost killed the Lictor again, because he couldn't really move, and this time he wasn't invulnerable like he was in the tree. So he's a little bit buggy. He's a little... As far as bosses are concerned, the Lictor is not perfect. It's not perfect by a long shot. So, I don't feel as bad about cheesing it on a lower difficulty. I will return to it on a higher difficulty later. In a kind of desperate attempt. I'm not sure when I'm going to do that, though. So, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. And I'm going to continue this mission in the next one, after I've taken a short break. And thank you. Thank you so much.